أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to Tuesday night program of Dua Tawassul. Before we begin with the recitation of Dua, just a quick reminder about the upcoming events. Inshallah, this Shab Jummah, this Thursday night, on March 10th, our program will start with the 7 o'clock with Salatul Isha, followed by the Amal of Shab Jummah, and we will be celebrating the prosperous birth of Hazrat Qasim ibn Hassan alayhim as-salatu wassalam and Hazrat Ali Akbar ibn Imam Hussain alayhim as-salatu wassalam. Please join us for this event in person, inshallah. And then next Thursday, March 17th, marks the 15th, or Nime Shaban rather, the night of 15th of Shaban. We will have the birth celebration for our 12th Imam, as well as the Amal for that night. All of that inshallah will start at 7 p.m. Also simultaneously on 15th of Shaban, there will be in-person children's program by Al-Mahdi workshops. For that, you will have to register with name and age at al-mahdi@masjid-ali.org. For more information, you can visit the website, and inshallah the information would be available there. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي يا ابن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي بن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا وسي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Iltimas dua. Please remember all of those people who are in need of dua, those who are suffering, struggling, going through a difficult time. Please remember Brother Muhammad Abbas Rizvi and other mu'mineen of our community. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وهاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالمين من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات فاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعاني فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. 5th of Shaban al-Mu'azzam marks the Wiladat Basa'adat of our 4th Imam, Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zainul Abidin, alayhi salatu wassalam. And as this entire month is blessed month, which began with the birth of Bibi Zainab, and then the birth of 3rd Imam, the birth of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, and then 5th is the birth of our 4th Imam. He was born on 5th of Shaban in the 38th year after Hijrah. And of course, the parents are the 3rd Imam, Imam Hussein, and his mother is Bibi Shahrbanu. As far as the features of this Imam are concerned, of course, Imam lived for the first 21 years of his life, or rather first 23 years of his life, under the imamat of his father, his uncle, and his grandfather. And the period of his imamat then begins from the year 61 after Hijrah, after the Shahadat of Sayyid al-Shuhada. For 34 years, Imam والسلام, was the Imam of Mu'mineen and Muslimin, from year 61 until his Shahada, which takes place in the year 95 after Hijrah. I recited this ayat from Surah Baqarah 186, where Allah says, "And when my servants ask you, O Muhammad, concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me. So let them respond to me by obedience and believe in me, that they may be rightly guided." When we look at some of the an overview of the life of Imam, we are familiar with his titles such as Zainul Abidin, meaning he's the zenith of Ibadat Guzaran. He's Sayyidul Sajidin, he's the Sardar and the master and the leader of those who prostrate. His, political sirat, his akhlaqi sirat, and as far as his ta'alimat that he left behind, the majmu'ah of Sahifa Sajjadiyah, which includes 54 du'as, and then 15 munajat, and then Risalatul Huquq, which talks about 50 rights. Ayatollah Marashi Najafi sent this book, Sahifa Sajjadiyah, to Tantawi, who is a mufassir of Quran from Ahl Sunnah. He said, "I found this book to be above the kalam of makhluk and below the kalam of the Khaliq." Imam transferred this immense knowledge in the form of dua through his son, Imam Muhammad Baqir, alayhi salatu wassalam, and Zayd ibn Ali al-Shahid. But unfortunately, these compilation of this dua is very underutilized in our communities. Rarely do you see that any emphasis is placed on reading. One of the, in this brief time that I have, 10 minutes, I will try and highlight and hint toward some of these du'as. One of the most important topics in this book of Sayf al-Sajjadiyah is akhlaq. While we look at the du'as of Imam, we can definitely divide them into many segments, from topic-wise, from the aspect of their substance that Imam has provided in these du'as, the political aspect that you find in them, the social aspect that you find in them, and then, of course, an overview of the concept of imamat, the concept of nubuwwat and tawheed, which is mentioned in these du'as. And then, as I mentioned before, more importantly, the concept and the akhlaqi and ethical moral teachings that you find in these du'as. There are a few du'as which are purely akhlaqi, such as Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, which is actually named dua after, to perfect the akhlaqiyat and the ethics. And then, of course, when you look at this dua number 20, Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, one of the points which is repeatedly mentioned in this dua. By the way, we recite this dua in the nights of Qadr, that how Imam is balancing akhlaq. For example, ibadat is very good, but it is possible that it might lead to vanity, pride, and show off. Person who is at the same time abid, ibadat guzar, worships, but this worship leads to, showing off and riyakari. A person might be very religious, but at the same time arrogant and conceited, because these are two sifat which can be put together. It's not like, they're opposite of one another and they repel one another. No, person could be very religious, but at the same time extremely arrogant and self-conceited. Person could be an ibadat guzar, worshipper, but at the same time has a riyakari and aspect of showing off in him. So Imam, what he does in this dua, he puts a parallel between these, and he's trying to balance the akhlaqiyat with things which might get mixed with our actions and corrupt them. Dua number 7 is when faced with a worrisome task or when misfortune descend at the time of distress. It begins with Ya man tuhallu bihi uqadul makarih. O he through whom the knots of detested things are united. When we read Surah Falaq, قل أعوذ برب الفلق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ بالفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد, that we seek protection from those who blow on these knots and those who practice sorcery and those who practice magic and try to cast spell on people. This is one of the best du'as to counter any of those things. Of course, this concept of magic or concept of spell and someone casting some sort of a spell or evil eye even, right? These aren't just superstitious things. There's reality to it. Quran talks about it as well. You usually find this ayat, وَإِن يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ, a lot of the calligraphies of these surahs and the ayat. This ayat is a lot of time found in the houses of the people. They put it right in front of their door. Soon a person walks in, this is the dua that you lay your eyes on, and sort of dispels any sort of evil eye if there is any. But the best way, and one of the best ways of countering that, is this dua number 7 when a person is facing such calamity. You look at dua number 8, it's called seeking refuge. Begins, Ilahi inni a'udhu bika min hayajan al-hirs. And oh Allah, I seek refuge from you from the hayajan al-hirs is the craving, this agitation of craving, rather. When a person becomes hirs, meaning he craves for something. Hirs is we need craving in our lives, but sometimes, if there isn't any hirs, no one would work hard. Hirs is basically when you look at someone and you develop this instinct of doing better, for example, or defeating, or competition comes into play. So sometimes it's good. It has to be there in order for this competition and for a person to work hard. But keeping in mind that hirs, which is beyond the limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is forbidden. So Imam talks about that. Another place he says in the same dua, "Oh, naqula fil ilmi bighayri ilmin," and speaking about knowledge without knowing, which is so common these days, and how we are all culprit and how we are all victim of this, rather, that we speak about that which we do not know, we do not possess the knowledge of. All these remedies that you heard over the past couple of years for COVID-19, coronavirus, and neglecting sometimes the experts' advice in it. Imam focuses on the capacity, the zarfiyat of people, and what can we do to raise the level of their capacity in public. For example, praising someone who hasn't done any self-building, self-purification, what are the ills of that? So if someone comes and praises me, and if I'm a very corrupted person, I haven't done really any self-building, self-purification, this could be devastating. Imam, although he's at the highest level of morality, he's a perfect being, he's insan kamil, he's a ma'asum, he utters these words. And of course, these words are out of humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not like, these words are fake and all will be left from Imam and he's only teaching us. No, his objective is to teach us, but he's showing the utmost level of humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning, oh Allah, in front of you, I am nothing. So Imam says this, وَلَا تَرْفَعَنِي فِي النَّاسِ دَرَجَةً إِلَّا حَطَّتَنِي عِنْدَ نَفْسِي مِثْلَهَا. Oh Allah, do not raise my rank in the eyes of public, except that you lower my rank the same amount near yourself. It's even beyond my pay grade to explain, fully comprehend this and explain this to you. But we'll stick with the translation that, oh Allah, raise my rank, or rather do not raise my rank in the eyes of the public, meaning I become famous and I become known and I become someone who people are constantly praising for, some of my work, for maybe my books, for maybe my philanthropy, for maybe my, khidmat-e khalqa, and other aspects of my life. Allah, do not raise my rank in the eyes of public, except that you lower my rank the same amount near yourself, because that'll draw a balance. When I'm raised here and my rank is lowered in front of you, this will be balancing out that scale that I need to be at. In other words, I recognize myself and understand the praises that I get are not real sometimes. And therefore, people might be looking at me. And this is a relative to some people where, the common example that we give, something in relation to something else might be bigger, but in relation to something else might be smaller. So you say, well, a fruit like cantaloupe is in relation to an apple is bigger, but in relation to a watermelon or something else is smaller. So this is where we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep that balance while keep me to be lower in front of you while I'm rising in the eyes of others. I'd like to point out, and I've run out of my time, that pay attention to this munajat of Imam, number 15 especially, which is for those who are the ascetic, those who are zahidin. He begins by saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ilahi askantana daran hafarat lana hufara makriha. My God, you have settled us in an abode which has dug for us pits of deception, meaning this world where you have settled us, this abode, and which has dug for us pits of deception every step of the way. As you're driving on the road, you get indications. There's some potholes. In fact, I was driving yesterday through Southern Parkway in Long Island, and it mentioned on numerous places, potholes on the road. And so you got to be careful, especially when you're driving at nighttime. You can't see those potholes. And if your headlights are on, still, the speed that you're going at, you sometimes don't see it, and you could damage your car. If you are walking, then of course you might damage your physical being by falling into the ditch or into this pit and getting hurt. Look at the concept from this worldly aspect. While we avoid these potholes and these pits as we are driving, but we rarely avoid these pits and potholes as they strike us in our lives. So it says, oh Allah, you have settled us in an abode which has dug for us pits of deception. وَعَلَّقْتَنَا بِأَيْدِ الْمَنَايَا فِي حَبَائِلِ غَدْرِهَا. And you have fastened us by the hands of death in the snares of that abode's treachery. That means that there's nothing really we can do when it comes to our death. Our hands are tied. Can anyone really throw the death away? No. Remember the person who came to Imam, he said, I can't stop sinning. Imam said, okay. He gave him a few instructions saying, do this, and then you can sin as much as you want. Fadnib ma'asheta, fadnib ma'asheta. Sin as much as you want. And one of the options that Imam gave him was that when Malakul Maut comes to you and wants to take your soul away, push Malakul Maut away, fadnib ma'asheta, and sin as much as you want. He said, Imam, I can't push Malakul Maut away. He said, وَعَلَّقْتَنَا بِأَيْدِ الْمَنَايَا فِي حَبَائِلِ غَدْرِهَا. And you have fastened us by the hands of death in the snares of that abode's treachery. And of course, this is, continues, and Imam takes it all the way to the fact that when he ends it by saying, oh Allah, وَأَخْرِجْ. These are the last four lines of this munajat. وَأَخْرِجْ حُبَّ الدُّنْيَا مِنْ قُلُوبِنَا كَمَا فَعَلْتَ بِالصَّالِحِينَ مِنْ صَفَّتِكَ. Oh Allah, dislodge the love of this world from our spirits, just as you have done for the righteous, your selected friends. وَالْأَبْرَارِ مِنْ خَاصَّتِكَ. The way you have done it for the pious, those whom you have singled out. Ya Arhamar Rahimin wa Ya Akramal Akramin. O most merciful of the most merciful, and O most gracious of the most gracious. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this blessed day, which is the birth of fourth Imam, Imam Zain al-Abidin, these words of fourth Imam from the Munajat number 15, and the du'as that I addressed, number 20, number 7, and number 8, from Sayyid Sajjadi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to ponder on these words of Imam Zain al-Abidin, apply them in our lives, and may we find salvation, help in this world through those du'as, which can open many secret doors for us, and of course be the reason for salvation, inshallah, in the hereafter. Wa akhu da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Mutawajjih ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, assalamu alaikum ya Nabi Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Habib Allah, assalamu alaikum ya Khiratullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك وعلى أمك وأخيك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء، السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وعنيس النفوس، أيها المدفون بأرض توس علي بن موسى رضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أعوانك وانصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.